Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here answering questions that Broncos Country had right after the Sean Payton news. So this show was filmed in our live show for the Sean Payton move. So if anything's a tiny bit dated by then, you know why. But let's jump into it with a super chat coming in from V-Man. Just to remind people that no head coach has won a championship with two teams since Weeb Bank or whatever won championships with the Colts and the Jets. Yeah, that's a long time ago, and I understand that. At the same time, I will say that no team has won a Super Bowl at its home stadium until the Bucs did it. And then the Rams next year. So records are made to be broken. Happens all the time in the NFL. And if there's a list of head coaches who could win a Super Bowl on two different teams, Sean Payton is on that list. Sam BBM next up on the show. So if you carry the two and figure out the square root of the Pythagorean theory, I think the Broncos won the Lance Payton trade. Yeah, so basically what Sam is referring to here is that the Broncos gave up the 29th overall pick, which came from Miami, which was for Bradley Chubb. But remember, Miami got it from San Francisco because they traded up to get Trey Lance. So in a way, this was Trey Lance for Sean Payton. Who won the trade? Who'd you rather have, Trey Lance or Sean Payton? Give me Sean Payton. Quick super coming in from Lopez. Appreciate you. Next one coming in from Scott Fry. Matthew, how long do you think it will take for them to hire the new offensive coordinator? Good question. As we film this right now, it is Tuesday. By the time you're watching this, it'll be later. I'm not quite sure which day you're watching this. They might have already hired someone by now. But as I stand right now, I'm going to give it a solid 4 days, 5 days. Could be a bit longer. I'm thinking about Hackett last year. He got the job on January 29th, and his staff was there, I don't know, less than a week later. It took a while for the entire staff to get put together. The linebacker coach, the wide receiver coach, stuff like that. But for the coordinators, I'd expect it to get done somewhat soon here. Now, give me a number. With Sean Payton at the helm, how many wins for the Broncos in 2023? We're going to go. Remember, when Sean Payton took over the Saints in his first year, he got them to 10 wins. I believe they were a 3-win team the year before that. So if Denver sitting at 5 wins, I don't see why they can't be in the 10-7 conversation. Jumpy Coconut next up on the show. Should we have kept Drew Lock? If Drew Lock couldn't even beat out Geno Smith, now Geno had a great year, but no. I'm going to quickly bypass this one. No, thank you. Cody W. next up on the show. Any stats on what Sean's offensive line looked like at Saints? Good question. I don't have any kind of stats on hand, but I can tell you that New Orleans Saints always had one of the better offensive lines. They always had good pieces in place. Cesar Ruiz, Ryan Ramczyk, like they had some guys. They had some dudes up there in New Orleans, right? When you thought about the Saints, you did not think that was a team that was constant revolving door at the offensive line. Like I do when it comes to the Broncos right tackle position, which I will remind you all is my biggest priority now. They've got their head coach. They have got to shore up the offensive line. That has to be priority number one. I think about this offensive line right now, and I can only think of one guaranteed gun to my head starter next year, and that's Quinn Miners. Hi Snipes with a question. Why is everyone bashing Sutton after he's coming off an ACL tear? It takes receivers at least 8 games to get themselves back to game speed, and Russ never there to him. Got bad news for you. It's been 2 years now for Courtland Sutton coming off his ACL tear, right? We just had the 2022 season. In 2021 he was there. 2020 week 2 or 3 against Pittsburgh is when he tore his ACL. I can't remember off the top of my head. So he's had 2 years now coming off the ACL. So why am I bashing him? Because Courtland Sutton is an Amber Alert. He just disappears, goes missing for stretches. I have no idea what happens, why he gets phased out of the offense for like 5 or 6 weeks and has 4 straight games with like 17, 27, 22, 31 receiving yards. He's paid too much to have those long low points. So for that reason, if Denver which only has 6 picks in the upcoming draft right now, gets an offer for Courtland Sutton, they may very well take it. Today's show, by the way, made possible by our sportsbook partner, BetUS. Check them out by going to chatsports.com/bet. using promo code Broncos125. When you do, they'll hook you up with a 125% deposit bonus. Let's check out this next question coming in from 000. How much do we get in cap space, and how would you target with it? Okay, so just so you guys know, Sean Payton's salary does not go into the cap space. Like that, NFL head coaches' salaries are not a part of the team cap space. So pay him $100 million, pay him $1 million, doesn't matter. In terms of cap space, right now Denver has about $14 million in the green. They're going to restructure a contract or two, all GMs too. They might release a guy or here. My guess is they'll probably work themselves up to 30-ish million in cap space. And that's good for kind of one biggish signing. If you want to go for like a Mike McGlinchey, for example, that could run you a bill between $15 to $20 million a season. Maybe closer to 18 million-ish, actually. So you definitely have that in your budget. Denver probably wants to put $5 million in the bank for emergencies in the season. Like, if they got to hire someone, sign someone. Also got to pay your draft picks. But when you don't have a first or a second round pick coming your way, it's not going to be very expensive to pay those draft picks. So they'll probably finish about $30 million to spend, and that's going to be good enough to sign 4-5 guys in free agency probably on like real deals. It's not including all the veteran minimums in the summer to just get yourself to 90. AFX Apocalypse here for an all-time troll job. Should they draft Stetson Bennett? Also, hi Matthew, it's me. I know. No. Stetson Bennett is my biggest fraud right now. I cannot stand Stetson Bennett. I could do a whole TED Talk on Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett, if you're watching this, well, you probably should be at the Senior Bowl right now. Instead, you're busy getting arrested in Dallas. There's no drafting Stetson Bennett at my channel. Next up on the show, the Sorham. Who do you want in free agency? Let's start with the offensive line. Orlando Brown, Mike McGlinchey, two of the bigger tackle free agents out there. Do you bring back Dalton Reisner? Doesn't really feel like it. Do you bring back Draymond Jones? Now that I can get on board with. Same for Alex Singleton. But the biggest contract given out by Denver this year has to be a tackle. If not, pitchforks and rioting. I mean, last year, George Paton's plan of Billy Turner, cheap one-year deal, was an absolute failure. And he only has himself to blame because he signed a guy who was released due to a failed physical, and he still thought, let's run it with him at right tackle. And it was a catastrophe. Now, the injuries to Bowles, to Reisner, to Miners, to Cushenberry at times, that's not on George. But I think offensive line, Glinchey, Orlando Brown, those have to be number one targets. By the way, if you are not subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so because it is nonstop Broncos news and rumors coverage here at the channel. And it's also 100% free. Sounds like a pretty good win-win if you ask me. So click on that subscribe button if you have not already. Let's check out this question coming in from I Am Frey. What is your prediction of our record next season? I want to see how many wins and losses. So in Sean Payton's first season in New Orleans, he went 10-6, got all the way to the NFC Championship game, lost to the Bears, who lost to the Colts. But we're talking about a 5-win team in 2022. I don't think 10 wins is all that big of a stretch, right? I mean, that's definitely a little bit of optimism pumped into there for sure. I think 9 wins has to be the floor for Sean Payton, right? That's the whole point of going to get Sean Payton was you saw the last 2 weeks, a better coached team could have won 4, maybe even 5 of those 9 record NFL one-score losses last year. A lot of reason to believe that Denver is not that far back as maybe their record indicated. So I'll go with 10 wins in 2023. Quad Gaming 517. Can we afford defensive tackle Daron Payne, Javonte David? So Daron Payne's going to probably run you a bill in the neighborhood of $20 million a season. Like I said earlier, probably going to get about 30 to 35-ish million in cap space. Maybe if they really got their sights set on someone, they could balloon it up to 40, kind of kick the can down the road for some of those contracts like Bowles and Wilson and whatnot and Simmons. Javonte David, he's 34. I believe he's going to be cheap, right? Javonte David's probably going to only go somewhere where he feels is, a middle linebacker away from a Super Bowl and kind of get a little bit of juice left out of him. That could be a a 1-year, $8 million signing. So can you afford them? Yes. Like you do have the money to do it. Do they go out and get a Deron Payne? I don't think so. Probably not. I think they're going to be content with DJ Jones, who they gave a decent amount of money to last year, and a draft pick or a cheaper free agent there next to him. Now, I want to ask this question to all of you watching. Do you believe in Russell Wilson? So what's our level of belief in Russ bouncing back in 2023? Yes or no? This is the big question moving forward, because if Sean Payton can't make Russ work, A, nobody can. B, I don't think Sean Payton's out of a job for it. I'm guessing Sean Payton took this job knowing two things. If I can make Russ work, great, I'm a hero. If I can't, don't blame me and don't fire me. I didn't trade for him. Get out of the contract as soon as possible, and we'll start from the ground zero with a young QB. Jumpy Coconut, should we get Odell Beckham Jr.? I actually watched a video of him today working out on a soccer field. It's always amazing how people like drool at workout videos with no pads on and no defenders in sight. But, I mean, the wide receiver room is interesting for Denver because it's got like plenty of names and talent, right? But we haven't actually seen them really turn into the potential we all think they have. You know, Patrick, unfortunately, had an ACL injury last year. Hamler was on and off for injuries. Jeudy only turned it on the second half of the season. And Courtland Sutton is missing in action for half of the year. So you got four names right there. OBJ wants to go somewhere where he can be a wide receiver one and command a lot of targets. I don't know if Denver's really the best fit for him. But hey, I think all 32 NFL teams are going to be looking at Odell Beckham Jr. this offseason. Thomas Howe, next up on the show, is keeping Justin out an option. Was very impressed by his play calling against the Chiefs and Chargers. I think it is an option, probably unlikely. I think Sean Payton's probably want to go out and get his own OC. Maybe he keeps Evero, but my guess is he's probably not going to stick by a guy who he has real no connection to just because of 2 games he called at the end of the season. That's probably not big enough sample size for him to go, you know what, you can stay put. My guess is Sean Payton, an offensive guy, he's going to want to bring his own offensive background, his own offensive personnel in there. Now, defense was awesome last year. For that reason, he'd be wise to keep Evero if Evero agrees to stay. But I think Outen probably out of a job in Denver here.